Well, Congressman Darrell Issa is very concerned about reports that certain primary challengers were asked, Democratic primary challengers, were asked by the Obama administration to consider potentially serving in the Obama administration or somewhere in the federal government, as opposed to challenging established Democratic Party contenders. So now Darrell Issa, congressman from the state of California, a Republican, is asking for an investigation into just who offered what jobs to whom and why. Thanks, Congressman.
Well, thanks for having me on, and this certainly is an interesting issue of, has it always been this way? Is there going to be change? And is it legal or illegal? And the debate seems to be completely split. If you're a Democrat, it's legal, it's always been this way, and why would we change using government positions to, quote, clear the field and save money for Democratic coffers? And if you're a Republican, it's illegal. It should have always been illegal. Here are the laws, and it's both illegal and unethical, and every ethics briefing tells you it is. So we're not close to a meeting of the minds after the president gave us a page and a quarter legal opinion after 10 weeks of the press asking that says it's both legal and ethical and leave us alone.
So the races at issue are what? There's the race involving Senator Arlen Specter, who this time around was running as a Democrat in the Democratic primary.
Well, the two issues are obviously trying to clear the field as a political favor for Arlen Specter by the White House, something they've now agreed they did. They're just debating whether it's unethical or illegal. And then the Romanoff case, in which they denied it, just as they did in Sestak initially. But once confronted by an email sent directly from the Deputy Chief of Staff of the White House, they've said, well, yeah, we did that, but there's nothing illegal. And that's where we stand right now.
So Romanoff is a candidate for the U.S. Senate in Colorado, right?
Correct. We now, he's still in a race. He hasn't had his primary, and actually he's trailing. But it's one of those situations in which twice to save money, and there's no question that if you can clear a primary, Democratic contributors, labor unions, and all the other base of the Democratic Party only has to give to one candidate, and they get to use it in the general, versus giving to two candidates and using it against each other. Republicans and Democrats all have the same goal, not to have that occur, but at the same time, democracy is not about a general election. It's also about whether you as a Republican or you as a Democrat or you as a Libertarian get a choice of who you'd like to put into that fray.
Of course, the issue is whether or not these jobs that were offered were paying jobs, which would amount.
Not at all. First of all, the second group, Romanoff, were paying jobs, but the statute, 18 U.S.C. 600, plus the Hatch Act, clearly talk about positions or influence. You understand that way back with Andrew Jackson, he filled his whole administration with people who were his financial supporters, and he made it a one-party presidency. Laws were passed to change that. 50 years later, the Hatch Act was passed so that once you took a position, even if you were a friend of the president, you were prohibited from actively using your position to further your party's goals. And then a number of laws, this one last updated by President Clinton, made it overtly legal and punishable by both time in prison and fine to try to influence a race using government positions.
Now, you say that this is politics as usual?
Oh, it may very well be politics as usual for dead fish from Chicago, but it's illegal. It's unethical. Every briefing you get when you come to Congress, the House, the Senate, or even a staffer in the House, and friends of mine that have been in the White House as staff, it's like the first briefing is, these are things you can't do. These are violations of the Hatch Act. These are things which will get you in jail and get you fired and more. And the amazing thing is, the White House's defense may be accurate, that they're seldom prosecuted, they're seldom discovered, that it does go on all the time. That's not what my job in government oversight. I'm the ranking member on government oversight. Our job is to find waste, fraud, and abuse that cost the American taxpayers anything and try to minimize or eliminate it, whether it's MMS not doing their job and taking free hotel tickets and other perks, or it's corruption in the White House. And understand, the last administration constantly dealt with allegations of violation of the Hatch Act. Hearings were held, investigations were done, because it is that important. If you don't have these laws in place, and if they're not enforced, you get one man, one vote, one time. Because once a party is in power, if they fully were able to use trillions of dollars, there'd be no reason to vote a new party in, because the old party would have the fix. And that's what happens in many countries in which there isn't a two-party revolving system, is they do make sure that they have all the power and they use it in this way.
So are you charging that the Obama administration has played fast and loose with the ethics of this sort of thing and government ethics in general?
Yes, ma'am.
And are there other cases beyond this that you have felt that the Obama administration has bent the laws and ethics in order to make their administration move in the policy direction that the president envisions?
Yes, ma'am.
So could you give me another example?
One of the rules that we have is, unless we have real evidence, if it involves a member of Congress or a prominent member of the administration, we want to make sure we have all the facts first. In the case of Sestak, he gave us the smoking gun. He made the statement, even though the White House denied it to Tim Kaine when he called right afterwards to verify Sestak's claim. That created a legitimate controversy with a credible witness, in this case a former three-star admiral and member of Congress. In the case of Romanoff, the allegations were interesting until the email with the White House return was confirmed. Now it's, again, clearly due and appropriate for criminal investigation. Now, understand, my job is to stop this. This is, I'm not a prosecutor. Government oversight is mostly about shedding light on things and getting bad practices stopped. So one of my biggest challenges is, can I get this stopped? Well, if the administration continues to say it's not unethical, it's not illegal, it's not wrong, and we're damn well going to continue doing it, so to speak, well, then I have a constant problem, and we will continue investigating. We're following up on as many as half a dozen what we consider credible leads of similar use of government, your taxpayer dollars. But they're more technical, and we certainly, if these two obvious ones are being denied, and if no one will investigate or charge or deal with them, then to a certain extent, and I'm not trying to be political, but look, an election is the only thing you have left if you have an administration who considers crimes not crimes. And Nixon's administration would have been a good example, where the president was wildly quoted as saying, if the president says it, it's legal.
Well, let's see what happens with your investigation. We'll be watching, and very much appreciating you taking the time to talking to us on the morning briefing.